I'm having a little chair handy. I'm having some body karma these days, and so what happens is I might get really lightheaded and need to sit down. Some people think that I'm perhaps lightheaded all the time, but that I won't speak to that at the moment. So this is my just-in-case chair, because, you know, if I actually fell over, getting back up would not be pretty. I absolutely love this topic. This is one of my favorites. Of course, you know, as time goes on, I go, oh, this one's my favorite. It's like having a favorite chant or a favorite affirmation. There's so many wonderful things we have. I was thinking about the first part, talking about, you know, trying to, when we have bits of darkness in ourselves still and we want to avoid the light. And I feel like, well, that's a really normal thing, and Swami says so in here. It's very common. I was thinking back to decades ago, really. I was visiting my mother one time, and she had a book by this woman named Catherine Marshall, who was a pretty prolific writer at that time. And I've forgotten the name of the book. It was like Beyond Ourselves or something like that. But one chapter I recall vividly. It was called Ego Slaying. The point of this practice was to turn your ego over to the divine, to be slayed, basically. That's why they called it that. But she told several stories of people who had made that choice and asked God to get rid of their ego. And, you know, what happened was, to me at the time especially, I was horrified. It's like, there it was, whatever their little bit of darkness was. And I mean, these were good, sincere Christian people. So you think, and it's not like they had a ton of darkness, but they wanted to rid themselves of whatever there was. So they made that prayer request, and it was answered in a way that, like I said, I found it pretty horrifying. And because everything was just laid out publicly in these cases that she mentioned, and I thought, whoa, I am never going there. But when we look at it in a little different way, you know, you think, okay, instead of saying that and thinking of it in those terms, for me at least, to think of opening to the light, maybe in a more private setting, you know, it's like, do we have to do this in front of everybody? I get it, you know, I'm not perfect yet. And so it just, to me, it was, as we progress, as we march along on the spiritual path, that's what we want to do, all in all. We want to be purified. That's one reason we have the purification ceremony Sunday after Sunday, is to open our hearts and let the light of God purify us. I was thinking about this also in terms of willingness, because, you know, the affirmation that Lorna just read and that we repeated with her, it's like, I welcome everything that comes to me. There's another one that's similar to that, you know, in the course of the year. And I remember when I first heard those, I was going, whoa, you know, it's like, I welcome whatever comes to me? I don't think so. Now I have a, you know, different attitude gained through the years, but still, it can be a challenging thing to contemplate, because things come to us, and they're the things that we need to come to us to help us on our way, opportunity for further growth, and they're not what we want, you know. I was reminded of a passage. There's a book that somebody gave me back in 1994. I went on a pilgrimage to Assisi, and someone gave me this book called Clare. So it's about St. Clare, A Light in the Garden. And it's not her actual words, but it's meditations on her that were written by a Franciscan monk. And I just want to read you a little clip because, you know, probably most of us, and I certainly have been like this, want, quick and easy, please. So I always had that attitude that once you make a commitment to the spiritual path, or in her case, she made a commitment to become a nun, that from then on, you did that, and everything should just go smoothly, right? It's like you said it. Now you shouldn't have doubts. You shouldn't have anxiety, blah, 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 on and on and on. It should just go, right? We said yes to life. What, we're going to have to say yes to life again and again and again? Anyway, she says, you choose your vocation over and over again. It's not a decision made once for all time when one is young. As Claire grew in experience and understanding of her commitment, she had to say yes again and again to a way of life that was not exactly the life she expected at the beginning. When she chose to do that, she had been hanging out a lot with St. Francis, and so what she thought was going to happen was that she and her sister nuns would be traveling with them. They'd be serving outwardly in the world. Instead, what happened, they're enclosed in a monastery, in a convent, I guess it was probably, anyway, for the rest of her life, basically. And it wasn't at all what she expected. It's like, wait a minute, But as he said on her behalf, God himself chose the manner of your witness. In embracing God's will, you discovered a self you did not know you could be. You discovered a part of yourself that you never would have known if you were pursuing your own will alone. And for me, that's the key part. It's what we think we want, what we think or what we wish was good for us, is often not. So we have to be open to what is really the best thing for us. In our Sevaka group that meets, we have different little groups, but anyway, we've been reading the book of Yogananda's called, thank you, How to Live Without Fear. She's going to clue me as I go along. How to Live Without Fear. And I was reading different things in it, and what to me seemed the clearest thing in opposition to fear, what can help us overcome fear, is really trust. Do we trust? Do we trust in the divine to do what's best for us? Even maybe against our wishes, or, I at least want the easy way, or I always have wanted the easier way. Now I'm becoming more open. I always hesitate to say this. It's like, okay, Divine Mother, I'm saying this, but you know how much I can take. Who was it? Mother Teresa once is quoted as saying, God never gives us more than we can handle. But then she followed that up by saying, I just wish he didn't trust me so much. Because there it is. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the ways that we can further our own understanding and our own willingness and experience. The first thing I want to talk about is seclusion and pilgrimage, which I think are just opposite sides of the same thing. It's basically taking time out of your busy life to focus on your relationship with the divine. Seclusion, you're doing it by yourself with the divine, but without other people. In pilgrimage, you're usually with other people and maybe many other people. So it's a different thing, but for both of them, you're outside your normal experience. I've been on pilgrimage 3 times, really, in a major way. Last fall, we had the opportunity, some of us went to Southern California, and we visited the shrines of Yogananda. And what a wonderful experience. I had been to the garden many times because I had a good friend that lived in Encinitas, and every time I'd visit her when she was at work during the day, I'd go hang out in the gardens, but I'd never been to any of the other places, Lake Shrine and Mount Washington, and what's that other place? Thank you, the crypt, where Yogananda's body rests. So that was a totally, I don't know, so much fun, but also deeply inspiring. But like I said, I had been in 1994 to Italy. That was my first experience. But the following year, there was a pilgrimage that was organized by Ananda Village to India. And I mention this partly because there's a pilgrimage to India being planned with Badri and Murali, I believe, right, for this coming fall. And what an opportunity. However, I did not want to go to India. I had never had any interest in going to India. I mean, people would go, oh, if only I could go to India where Master lived at, and I went, go for it, you know. I'm thinking, it's going to be hot. It's going to be dirty. It's going to be depressing. But you know what? Divine Mother kept getting in my face. It's like I was down at Ananda Village. I'd been doing probably karma yoga or something. I don't know what I was doing down there. But anyway, everything that I did, suddenly it'd be India. I'd go to Kirtan, and they go, oh, we decided to do Indian bhajans, which wasn't commonly done, you know. So it's just finally I went, you know, uncle. Of course, the other part was that the pilgrimage was full. But I thought, okay, get Divine Mother off my back, you know. It's like, so I took my little checkbook, because that's what we used in the day, and visited with Lisa Powers, who was in charge of organizing that one. And I said, okay, here's my deposit, put me on the waiting list, and then I'll, you know, pray that I don't have to go. Which, sad but true. But what she said was, are you kidding me? Somebody just dropped out, and you're the only person on the waiting list who's put a deposit. So it was like, okay. And you know what? It was hot and dirty and depressing and totally inspiring and wonderful and transformative. So there you go. One of the things that was especially wonderful on that trip was it happened that Swami Kriyananda, who is the founder of Ananda, was in India at that time, and he was in a variety of places, but he happened to have taken kind of just like a rest. He had a little apartment in Rishikesh, which is in the upper part, the clean part of the Ganges River. And we had an opportunity one day to take a boat across the river and have tea with him. So there's a group, you know, about 25 of us. So we're crammed into this tiny room, because it's just a very modest little place. It's the kind of place he liked often. Anyway, he's drinking tea and just chatting with us and dropping pearls of wisdom with the most inconsequential statement, you know. It was just so amazing. And then later that day, oh, by the way, I was mentioning this partly too, when you leave, on the table just outside where usually those little slips of paper for purification are, there's a picture of him in that little apartment that this was back in the days of film, so not digital, but anyway, it's one that I really like. It's just him looking so relaxed and being so gracious as he always was. Later that day, we went for a walk with him, and we just walked all along the river. There are little temples everywhere there, and people were doing pujas, and we'd stop and, listen and try to take in what we could as we went along. But we ended up at the Divine Life Society, which I'm going to forget now. But anyway, the Swami who was in charge there at that time was Chidananda, Swami Chidananda. And he and Swami knew each other, had known each other for years. And we had this wonderful satsang, sitting on the floor. They talked with each other, and just incredible sweetness on both parts. And we sang for them, they sang for us. It was such a treat. And the thing is, with pilgrimage or seclusion or anything like that, is there are the ups and downs. I remember also being at one of Anandamoy Ma's ashrams, and there's a bit in the autobiography of a yogi when Yogananda, as a young man, was hearing people playing, he thought of it as really raucous noise, and so just wrong, he's really put out with the sound. And then, of course, I think it was Master Mahashaya said, isn't it sweet to hear God's name through lips that are wise or foolish? And, but we were there in this ashram, and I swear, these three men were standing there with like metal wash tubs and big metal spoons or something. That's what they were playing, and it was not harmonious. It was not melodious. And I remember sitting there, and I was just being really, what's the word, disgruntled, It's like, okay, it's hot, I'm tired, what am I doing here, da-da-da. And sure enough, pretty soon, actually, I don't know whether they stopped playing or my mind just switched to a different channel, and I didn't have to be upset about it, but this wonderful monk came around, who's this Swiss monk, and he came around to each of us one by one and handed us an orange wrapped in a silk cloth. And, your heart just opens. You can't help yourself. So when you go on pilgrimage, just keep in mind not to have expectations. Just be open to whatever happens, foolish or wise, whatever that seems like at the time, you're soaking in incredible vibrations. And you don't have to go to India or Italy or even Southern California for a pilgrimage. There's so many places that are have that strong vibration. One of the places you can go is our community just down the road. It's been there now for 30 years, and as you go around, there's a number of different shrines, and you can feel, people do feel the vibrations there that are strong of just goodness and love, and it helps you to become more open. Usually toward the end of August, we have what we call Guru Night, and it's like a mini pilgrimage. There's altars set up for each of the masters, and we go around and chant and have offerings and so forth at each one, and stories. And that's also a very easy, all you have to do is drive down the road a little bit and then walk around, or however you want to perambulate. But to have that opportunity to steep yourself, even for a little while, in that greater consciousness, that higher vibration. Of course, the other thing is that it's so a great a blessing, I think, to be able to go on pilgrimage, or to be able to have a seclusion, or to live in community. Those are all gifts that we've been given on this path. But you know what? It's like what you have available to you all the time, with or without any other people, is we've got it right in our own body, your own spine and brain. That's where we can find salvation. That's where we can feel the energy rising and purification happening as we do practices like Kriya Yoga. The chant we did earlier, Opal Flame, I'm going to just sit down because I'm feeling a little spacey. But for me, that's always been such an inspiration. I originally heard that Ram Smith from Ananda Village was up here one time, probably, 30 years ago, and he did that chant, and I had never heard it, and I went, whoa, what is this? Because to me, that imagery just called to me. It's like, this is what I want, Make thine eyes a single flame to see the starry gate. Thy body will be light, illumining all space. I just went, whew, that's the goal. We want to get beyond ourselves, beyond our limited consciousness, into that great overarching consciousness and become one with it. What is more wonderful than that, The Gita reading, that's my very favorite Gita reading, or at least it is today. But the thing is, we have to start where we are. For one thing, there's no place else you can start, even if you wanted to. I mean, we'd probably all like to start dwelling with the divine on high. Well, sure, absolutely. But if thy thought droops from such a height, well, here's what to do, and here's what to do. And finally, bring me thy failure. Because the most important thing we can do, starting where we are, is to work to elevate our consciousness. And we do this partly with our will. We have to be willing to have that happen. I was reading something recently, and it was mentioning that when Jesus was, doing his mission for those 3 years, he was going around and healing people and stuff, but he came to this one guy who'd been had his condition, whatever it was, for 38 years. And what did Jesus say to him? He said, do you want to be healed? Because a lot of us, we think, oh, of course, but when it comes right down to us and you're talking to somebody who could make that happen, just like that, do we in fact want to be healed? Or are there benefits to being the way we are, It's not, we wouldn't think so, but you're thinking, okay, what don't I have to do because I have this condition? Or this attitude of mind, or whatever it might be. What am I getting out of this? So I've forgotten where I was going with that. That's okay. From one of the whispers from eternity, which are prayer demands and poems of Yogananda's, he's talking to Divine Mother, and he's going, naughty or good, I'm your child. And here we are. Where are we on the thingy there? The thingy. Where are we? Are we the dwelling with the divine on high, or are we having only our failure to give? It doesn't really matter. I mean, except to us, of course, you're thinking, oh, yeah, I want the highest. But wherever we are, naughty or good, we can extend ourselves toward the divine. And that's always a possibility for us. With, if you don't yet know the technique of Kriya Yoga, that's a wonderful thing to have, because you can then learn consciously to pull your energy up your spine and at your spiritual eye, give everything to God. One of the things that I find most useful is finding a chant, or maybe for you it's an affirmation, or I don't know what, but to find something that helps you when you're having a hard time getting started. You know, you're in some kind of little slump, and your energy is not here. But what can you do to get the energy moving? Well, one of the things, of course, is energization exercises. But also, for myself, finding a chant. And there's so many wonderful chants of Yoganandas and Swamis. We have books out in the foyer available with the chants, or go Radio Ananda is available free 24/7, and it has songs and chants to find something that inspires you. Like when I heard this Opal Flame, I went, yeah, that's where I want to be heading. That's where I want to be heading. So find something that helps you feel motivated. And then a really important thing, and I say this because I often forget, I can't believe, that after all these years, I don't think of it first thing, is to ask God, to ask your guru for help. It's like, what should I be doing next? What should my next step be? How would you like me to pray? Help me pull my energy up. What's the best way to do this? And, the grace of God comes through and helps us then take our next steps forward. I wanted to just end with a reading from Whispers from Eternity. Again, every one of these is a gem. I was telling somebody yesterday, what I do is I'll go through and I'll pick out like 5 readings the day before, and then Saturday night, when I'm doing Sunday service, then I'll try to narrow it down to 2 or 3. And then Sunday morning, I'm going, okay, this is the one. So today's is number 155. Bless me, Father, that I behold the eastern star of wisdom. May it shine before my human eyes as much in daylight as in darkness. Long my eyes were blinded by the tinsel glitter of materiality. Seeing things always outwardly, I saw not the spirit behind and within them. I saw the mustard seed of matter, but not the oil of spirit that it contained. My third eye of wisdom is now opened. Oh, may it always be so. Let the gaze of my single eye of realization penetrate through every veil of matter to behold the infinite presence of Christ everywhere. Bless me that my sacred, wise thoughts, following this star of knowledge, lead me to the Christ in everything. We'll take just a moment of silence. Then I believe we have more music.